Well, we are currently in a field, but we're not in a cornfield. Why is that? Well, the corn head had a little bit of an accident about an hour ago, 2 hours ago maybe. One of the snoots got caught under a bunch of grass going through a waterway, and it mangled the snoot entirely. So, after contacting our local John Deere dealer, they continued on to tell us that they did have the parts we needed. So we went and got them. They did not have the parts we needed. We actually went to go replace the whole snoot. Now the snoot is not just the front cone part. We're talking the whole section from the cross auger in the corn head all the way to the end of the snoot. They're actually two pieces. Well, they sent us down to a different store to get the piece because they're the one that had it, and they only had one piece. It's not the end of the world. It's called being adaptable and being lucky. We actually had some soybeans we could run through, and the weather calls for it. So we're going to be running soybeans until it rains again. And they're talking some significant amount of rain on Saturday and Sunday. So when the new part gets here, it's down in Fulton, I believe. The part will be here, or the rest of the parts will be here on Monday. So you guys look forward to a video of us setting that up, or putting that on. That's going to start looking a little goofy. That'll be the second snoot it has on it that's plastic, and the rest are metal. Because the end cone snoot, the old snoot didn't get destroyed, the old metal one. The mounting hardware for it kind of grenaded, so we ended up putting on, we had to put on a plastic snoot because we couldn't get the proper hardware to mount a metal one back on it. But it's nice to be back in doing soybeans, even though we were planning on running corn through until like 8 o'clock tonight, 9 o'clock. The bin at Rockville is not full, the 20,000 bushel bin. The small 10,000 bushel bin is too full. I got a little carried away with that one, and the Sturator no longer is able to run around the bin under its own power. So it's going to require a little bit of manual labor. I'm going to have to go in and take a shovel in and level it out a little bit so Sturator can run on around. It's uneven. The spreader that was throwing the corn around, I don't think we've ever really talked about those spreaders much, have we? But the spreader was throwing it around unevenly, which I'm not really sure how that's even possible. Could be loose up top or uneven, but it didn't fill the bin evenly. So I got one side of the bin that's a little bit lower by like 2 feet. But we'll go in, or I'll go in and shovel it around and get it evened out. But this doesn't really mess up our plans too awfully bad. Yeah, we were really hoping to run corn through the rest of the day, but we had every intention of cutting out and going to beans tomorrow regardless of where we got on corn today. So we're just starting soybeans a little earlier. It allows us to be done in a timely manner. Then Dad's soybeans, I'm gonna face it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. You guys are watching this video, we're already pretty well done with all of my dad's soybeans. As in, we should be done with all of my dad's soybeans. Can't say for certain until it's actually done, but the plan is to do it tomorrow. Then we'll be down to just 100 acres of soybeans to do yet. And then soybeans will be done, and I'll be happy about that. And we can switch all of our focus over to corn. The corn, from what I understand, is running well. I have to see some yield maps yet to actually know what it's running. This is about the most I've seen of the combine in the last 2-3 days. Because you guys have seen my videos, I'm the Roadrunner. And Ryan actually tenders the corn with the cart from the field up to my buildings for the most part. And I really don't see the combine running that much. Don't worry, I'll have some videos of us or on my channel of me running the combine, is say I got those soybeans and my corn that I want to be harvesting myself. So I mean, we'll have footage of that. I don't know. Harvest is going smoothly. Everyone's behind because it's the 20th of October, or at least today is the 20th of October when you guys are watching this. And there's a lot of crops out in the country yet. That week of wet weather put us right back to where we typically are this time of year. Actually, probably a little bit farther behind. Oh, then again, maybe not. Say last year, we've only been combining for 4 days at this point as far as soybeans. Corn, yes. We actually had the corn bins full by this time because last year we actually shelled out the bins full and then switched to soybeans because they weren't dry or ready to go by then. The corn that we were hauling in yesterday, we originally started when we first started combining yesterday, or 2 days ago. The corn was coming in at 24%, and the last load of corn that I put in before we broke down was running in at 17.7%. For those of you that don't know what makes that relevant, is that for corn to be stored, it has to be somewhere between 13 to 15%, and you're looking at a minimum of at 15%. So for storage, if we're going to keep them in those bins, it has to be at 15%, and for grain contracts down at the river or the elevator, it has to be at 15%, otherwise they start docking you for it for every, it's every a penny per percent or a penny per half% or something like that. It's been a while since I've actually had to ask them. But the stuff is, these beans that we're out here doing right now are a little tough yet. But I've been told that a lot of guys are doing exactly what we were planning on doing anyway. They're switching from corn to beans. Because soybeans, when they get ready to be harvested, you basically have to just cut loose off corn and switch to soybeans. Oh, but we're in Ryan's soybean field right now. I'm not sure what Ryan's planning on doing on this field as far as tillage. He did make the comment that he was just going to hit it once with the Earthmaster VT and call it good. And he was just going to hit it once next year and then plant into it. It's going to be going to corn next year. But I don't know. Last year I was actually going to do that. I was going to do one of my soybean fields, or my soybean stubble strips. I was just going to hit it once with the VT and then go in this spring and hit it once with the VT. But then about halfway through fall, I changed my mind and I said, you know what? It makes more sense to me to chisel plow my bean stubble that's going into corn next year and just VTing my corn stalks. But see, the problem is that by that time I already had all my corn stalks chisel plowed anyway. So I ended up actually chisel plowing all of my corn and all of my bean stubble stalks. But this year I'm planning on doing exactly like I said, stick to my guns. I'm just going to go through and VT all my corn stalks once this fall. Those stock 360-degree stock rolls that we put on, I will be doing a video on those. They are doing a pretty good job from what I've seen of the stock so far. Everything that it's pulling down through the head, it is cutting up and processing. It's crimping it and it's cutting it at 7-inch lengths, which is great. People are going to wonder why bother going through and VTing the stalks then if those stalk rolls are already processing the stalk. Well, I'm glad you asked. The reason we're going to do that is because the corn head can only hit so much of that stalk, and typically, depending on what kind of ground conditions you're in, you leave maybe a foot and a half, sometime in the extreme case 2 feet of stalk standing. And those stalks that are still standing, can really create a nightmare when you're trying to chisel plow or do anhydrous. We don't plant into any standing corn stalks if we can get out of it. Last year of 2016, last spring, was a special situation because of some ground we picked up, but since then we have not. And going through with that VT actually knocks down those standing stalks that aren't going through the combine head, and it processes those stalks that are still standing. Because what we're aiming for is those corn stalks to be pretty well decayed back into the ground by next spring. It makes for a better seed bed. It gets any of the nutrients and anything that's really absorbed or that's in that corn stalk released back into the soil. And that's just part of our rotation, actually. We are adapting. I can say that in the last 3, 2, and 1, and I'm just going to say 2.5 years. I can say that in the last 2.5 years, we've done more to improve our crops than we have in probably the last 20 when we were still milking. Largely that's a product of old-time thinking. Grandpa really wasn't too big on change. That's why we were still planting the same brand of seed corn that he started planting when he started farming. My grandpa planted Pioneer for 50-some years. Really didn't do much on shopping around for corn varieties. It was more along the lines of he bought what he bought. And being how we changed from dairy to row cropping, really I never got too carried away with yields or watching the yields or being too concerned with how the crops are yielding. Myself, actually, until about 2008, 2010. I started to in 2008, 9. I really started to when I came back from college, and it started being a bit more relevant to me in 2010. And then in 2013 is when I started farming myself. And my grandpa, now remember this is old-time thinking, my grandpa honestly believed, he said it all the way up to the last year that he was around when we were harvesting corn, that 150 bushel the acre corn is a great crop. Okay, parts of the world, parts of the country, 150 bushels the acre is a great crop. But for us, we know these farms have very strong potential for raising good yielding crops. And ever since I started farming, I've gradually been tweaking populations and seed treatments and fertilizer rates. And then until last year, because I was cultivating all that stuff too, but I didn't do any of the liquid. What really helped us is when WS Ag stopped by one day, Andrew Tucker. He actually got us really really pushed into the technology side of farming. He helped us with the yield monitor. He helped us start mapping our yields and our planting and varieties, and he got me set up for that liquid potash in the cultivator. So it all depends on who you have helping you. I'm not trying to trash anybody else, but needless to say, Andrew from WS Ag has done nothing but help our operation ever since he started coming around and helping us out and We do disagree on things, but he also brings more to the table. He brings a different view on the operation. Seems how he's an agronomist and he has the time to look at all the genetics and all the other inputs of farming. Because the thing about being a farmer, like myself, my dad, my brother, when you're a farmer, you're expected to be as good of a professional in everything that has to do with farming, from mechanics to growing a crop to raising cattle to taking care of cattle and medicines and everything else, and running your own books. But a decent agronomist that'll help you out and actually seems like he genuinely cares about whether or not you're making a profit at the end of the year really helps. We have told Andrew, you know, when he's brought up things that he'd like to see us try or do or consider, and we've told him no, it's not going to happen, that's not for our operation. Andrew has also told us no, where we've brought up stuff where we'd like to try, or generally on like different seeds or seed treatments, where Andrew himself, he's told us where if all he had to do was say yes, and we were going to buy, what was it? It was a seed treatment I wanted to try this spring, and Andrew flat out told me no. He says I wasn't going to see a return on it. He was very confident in that fact. And in the end, I didn't do it. Saying that, granted, I know there's going to be somebody out there that's going to say that all agronomists are just going to... I know there are agronomists out there that are really just out there to pick up a paycheck. I mean, we've had them. But it's nice when you got an agronomist like Mr. Tucker, that he's concerned about the farming operation and that we're still here next year and the following years, because if we're not, he's out of a job. If not, I've actually been giving Andrew a lot of grief here lately. Oh man, this is getting to be a little bit of a long video. But I actually been giving Andrew a lot of grief here lately because of the AgriGold and DeKalb debate. We've been combining corn the last 2 days, and as you all know, we split planted the AgriGold and DeKalb throughout our farms, and we were combining some of the split planted corn yesterday, and it was yielding. It was yielding quite well for the ground that's on. We always shorted my place. We always assumed my place couldn't yield. We've proven in the last 2 years that my place does yield rather well, or has the potential to yield rather well. And the AgriGold is performing right along with DeKalb. It is outperforming DeKalb. It is underperforming DeKalb on certain parts of the field. But overall, it is doing a very good job. To say something Andrew pointed out this morning was, yes, DeKalb was outperforming AgriGold, but if you look at our yield map from last year and looking at the ground types, the soil types, where the DeKalb was and the AgriGold was, the AgriGold was yielding, I think it was just a few bushels less than the DeKalb, and the AgriGold was on the poorer ground compared to the DeKalb that was on the better ground, and AgriGold was still able to yield within 4 bushels of what that DeKalb did. So he was pretty excited about that. See, I'm not taking any credit from the fact that AgriGold is a quality product and it's yielding, and I guarantee you we're going to be planting AgriGold next year, at least in some percent, either a third, 2/3, or 75%. But I forgot where I was going with that. Oh well. Well, actually, I'm gonna head out. They're getting a pretty good amount of beans on there yet. I know this is a windy video. I appreciate everybody that stuck out for the 20-minute long video. I'm kind of boring at times, but if I get talking and ranting and everything else, I kind of lose track of the conversation. I just kind of go. But until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. Do me a favor, go ahead and hit subscribe for those of you that haven't yet but still like to come back and see what's going on. Hit subscribe so you can keep up with all these awesome harvest videos. Talk to you guys later.